Welcome everyone to our 8th episode of Slow Living, a webinar series driven by sustainability, rooted in community. Thank you all for joining us today during Labor Day weekend. We really appreciate all your support and being here. Today, we have the honor of hosting Jonny Black from Cast Iron Design. Jonny is the partner and co-founder of Cast Iron Design, a local design studio focused on brand identity and sustainability. In his respective profession, Jonny is a proficient typographer, print production specialist, and all-around visual wizard, I should say. On today's episode, Jonny will speak on behalf of his studio's efforts to maintain a zero-waste footprint and encourage other professionals to integrate sustainability in their own careers. So before Jonny takes the floor, I would just like to remind the audience that we will be doing a Q&A section at the end of the presentation. If you have any questions for our guest speaker at any point during his presentation, please send them in the chat box. I'll view them and then I will call on you during the Q&A section to ask Jonny specifically. So without further ado, Jonny, the floor is yours.
Cool, all right. Let me get screen sharing here. So I think, is that working?
Looks great.
Cool, all right. Thanks Kevin and the RYM team for having me. Thanks everybody for showing up. Hopefully keep it interesting and keep it short. Start off with a little bit about me. My name is Jonny. I'm one of 2 partners at Cast Iron Design. Today I'm going to be talking briefly about our approach to sustainability, but before we dive in, design is a pretty broad discipline, so I'm going to define, kind of give you an overview of the various types of work that we do. So most of the projects that we work on start with branding. Branding is, everything from the logo to the colors, the typography. It's the whole visual component and sort of all encompassing. We also do packaging, so everything from labels to beer packaging and food packaging and so on. Print and editorial, we do books and magazines, posters, a ton of different print. Experiential design, that is inclusive of wayfinding and exterior and interior signage, and occasionally some fun experiential graphics like that moose you're seeing a little flash of there. Copywriting, something kind of unique for a studio of our size. We just, kind of try to inject some fun and whimsy and wit into the work that we were creating for clients. Motion has become a big part of our practice. It's kind of integral to every brand in the sort of modern era, and this is a work that we're excited about. Web and interactive. So we mainly design sort of small scope websites. We're not like an app development and app design studio, but we do like portfolio websites, websites for restaurants, shops, that kind of thing. We also do the development of that. Photography, we do all the photographs on our site are ours unless otherwise noted. And we also do photography for clients, product photography, mainly like fun and more whimsical stuff. So a lot of people wonder, what does it mean to be a sustainable design studio? I'm going to walk you through our approach. It starts with what you can do yourself. So that as your commute, your travel, right? A lot of people are working from home these days, walking, biking, taking public transportation, using the electric vehicle. And then when it comes to energy use, if you're in control of that at your company, then that's minimizing the amount of electricity that's being used and using clean energy when possible. Next is waste. So just generating less waste and of course, disposing of the waste that you do generate in the best way. A little shout out to RYM. They can help you figure that out if you're not you're not familiar with how the whole system works. Purchasing and supplies. So you think about the stuff that you buy for the office. You can think about, you can find a lot of great stuff on Craigslist if you're patient. And when you do need to buy new stuff, make sure to buy as locally as possible, and try to work from companies that are, creating responsible materials and using responsible materials to create their products. So here's kind of the short list of the stuff that we do: office, energy, waste, and purchasing and supplies. And then here's like a long list that you probably barely be able to see with the screen share, but that's kind of the intention. There's a ton of different stuff that we do that is really nuanced to go over, but it is just a process of starting somewhere and improving as you go. Another thing that's really important to us is that we try to do our best to help educate colleagues and students in our field. So we make this little pocket notebook for designers that kind of gives you information on why you should use recycled paper and how to spec responsible paper, because it's a really difficult and kind of convoluted thing to do. The next is, because we have the privilege of being able to, as business owners, choose which projects we take on. We are choosy with the work that that we'll accept, and so we won't do any work in any of these sectors, as sort of just kind of a short list. And the main part of us being a sustainable design studio is overseeing green production on the things that we design. So I'll be showing a couple examples of this in a moment. But here is one sample of a tote bag that we designed and created this little label that sort of speaks to the process of how the tote bag was produced. So the first example I'm going to give is about stickers. So this is like one that it tends to blow people's mind because they never think about it. And I think it's pretty interesting. So every single adhesive label or sticker that you've ever used is flawed from an environmental perspective. And the reason is because half of the material is inherently destined for the landfill. And that half is the release liner. You might know it as backing paper, but most conventional pressure-sensitive adhesive labels or stickers have two basic parts, and that is the face stock and the release liner or backing paper. So we did a bunch of research and found try to find alternatives for this, and there's sort of different levels that you can seek out. The easiest one is to use 100% post-consumer face stock, but in those situations, the release liner is still not recyclable. We found one company in Wisconsin producing a release liner that is recyclable. It's the only one that we know of at the time, and it can be recycled with corrugated cardboard, so it just saves a shit ton of viable fiber from entering the landfill. So that is one example. The next example that I'll show you is a recent case study that we did work for Patagonia. The project was really simple. It's a recommendations map for the Boulder area. And here's a look at the cover. And this is one of the examples of the spreads on the inside. It's a small project, but because it's Patagonia and they are known for sort of paving the way when it comes to eco products and eco business practices, we knew that we had a opportunity to work with experimental, sustainable materials or production methods for this. So we got in touch with a company here in Colorado called Living Ink. Shout out to Scott. And we've been keeping an eye on what they've been doing for a few years. They've been on our radar, and it's this, like I mentioned, this company that was started by two biologists here in Colorado. They came up with a process that replaces conventional petroleum-based pigment with pigment that is made from algae. So how is the algae pigment made? Is that bad for the environment? Everything has an environmental, toll to some degree, but what's great about the algae they're using is that it's actually a byproduct of existing algae production. It's made from algae that is grown for food coloring. And so that is what one of those fields look like. And here's a different view. So they have these, giant ponds, essentially, artificial ponds that they create to grow the algae. And algae is really this amazing organism because it eats sunshine and produces oxygen. And as a result, the algae ink is a carbon negative process. And there are tons of different species of algae which have different colors. Here's a look at that. So as you can imagine, it will allow the company Living Ink to make a wide variety of colors in the future. But when we reached out to them, they had one color that they were close to finishing up, and that color was black. So what we did was use that as a constraint to design the book using only black and avoid all color, and instead use color in the form of the paper. So here's like a little promotional graphic for it that we made. And here's a look with that, some of the algae ink spilling over the cover of the book. And you can see we used a craft paper and a paper that has a slight pink tone to it. And both of those papers are 100% post-consumer recycled. So you got, your eco paper and your sort of eco ink, and everything turned out really great for this project. So what's cool about this project is that it got a lot of buzz, and it got posted to dozens of websites, including an article in Fast Company. And so for us, that really showed that there's a ton of excitement and demand for sustainable design solutions. And I would encourage everybody, whether you're working at an office with thousands of people, or working from home, or owning your own business, everybody can sort of get involved in making sustainability a part of your career. And I encourage you to do so. So that is all I have for you today. Thank you very much. I'm imagining like an applause right now. The crowd's like,
I'm there for you. Don't worry about it. No, that was awesome, Jonny. Thank you very much. And actually, we're having Scott Fulbright on as a guest in October.
Oh, great. Awesome.
Living Ink. Yeah. So it's been incredible to get to know him a little bit more about his company. So, I mean, it's completely full circle, right? It's everybody in the industry is going to be connected, and everybody's working towards the same goal. So right now I want to open it up to a Q&A section. I certainly want to thank you for your presentation. That was phenomenal. And to start off with the Q&A, I want to congratulate you. I saw that you were on your 10-year anniversary for your studio. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Today's 10 years.
Wow. I mean, what a day. Thank you for being with us for that day, because that's an honor. So to go off of that, my question is, over the 10 years, how has tackling sustainability in graphic design changed? So this is kind of a two-part question. One, has it changed? Has it become easier or harder? And then two, have the resources become more accessible or more limited in terms of local partnerships and market availability?
What's funny is that somebody asked me, I think it was like 4 years ago, 2016, maybe 2017, they asked me the same question. And, the answer that I gave them was not the answer that they were hoping for. They were pretty disappointed. I was like, honestly, not much has changed. But I would say in the design industry, specifically the graphic design industry, things have changed in the last few years drastically, and it is way easier. There are more tools available than ever before. There are great resources, organizations that are like spending all this time with no pay to create resources for graphic designers, like material libraries and all kinds of theological, like philosophical framework sort of resources. There's just tons of great stuff out there. And I think it's still difficult in terms of like sourcing and seeing through the product, because I think the print industry is behind. But it is, as more people ask about this kind of thing and engage, then it'll cause all these printers and manufacturers to be more aware of the demand and trying to meet that. So I think it is becoming easier on all fronts, and we're as a result, we're really optimistic about the future. I think it's going to be I think we're sort of this tidal wave sort of thing going on, and I'm excited to see what it's like in another 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you were ahead of the curve, because 10 years is no easy feat. So that progression, I couldn't even imagine what you've seen throughout the industry in that time. So I appreciate that. I apologize that my question wasn't original, but
no. I think it's a really good question, because it sort of it wakes people up that there's a swell happening, and you can besides the like enhancing your career and life, making your work more worth doing, you can also meet a need that's out there for clients that are looking for designers that are thoughtful and considerate about their materials and environmental impact.
Absolutely. I mean, that emotion into that product is what's going to drive people towards you. So going off of that, that's exactly why RYM was created, is even though we were established in Boulder, which is such a green community, there's still so much work to be done. So
sure,
there's always progression to be had. So I don't see any specific questions in the chat panel. So I invite anybody to type out something if they have anything for Jonny. So we'll take just a couple minutes and wait for anything to come in. But unfortunately, I don't see anybody. Here we go. One just came in, and I will actually have Victoria ask you her specific question. So you're unmuted now, Victoria.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great. Thanks, Jonny. This is really, I've admired your studio for a long time, and this is really amazing to have you on. My question is, have you found any surprising limitations or roadblocks working specifically in the Boulder community, particularly because Boulders, prides themselves on being, as Kevin said, really, green and environmentally focused? Have you found any surprising limits to what you can have access to and the partnerships that you've established?
I think as far as industry goes, there seems to be more progress happening on the coasts. A lot of the sort of innovation surrounding green design is happening, like from a production standpoint, is happening in California or New York. And so there's been some limitations there, because part of the thing with green design, one of the core tenets is working as locally as possible. So when we produce packaging or we produce a print piece, we want to produce it here, and sometimes the technology may not exist here yet. So I think that's been a tricky thing. But as far as the community goes, it is the reason that we moved here in the first place was to work with like-minded people, right? We wanted to be in a community that full of sustainably minded folks, and so it's been really easy to find people who are on board for what we're doing. It's been difficult at times to find people who are willing to go further than just like choosing some people are in the boat where they'll choose the environmentally preferable option if it's not extra work or cost or whatever it is. And then so sometimes that can be difficult, but then at the same time, we've had clients that they don't even care what the cost is. They care about the environmental impact. So we've kind of seen it from both ends.
Right. I'm sure cost plays a big role too, because a lot of things are not super cost friendly when you're attempting to be green.
Yeah, it's sort of a this like I don't know, double-edged sword or sort of game that we're playing like a little bit, because it's by choosing, especially like materials that are like some green materials are actually less expensive, right? But a lot of times they are more expensive. Like you're not going to find an organic cotton t-shirt that is going to be cheaper than a conventional cotton t-shirt, like like sort of stitch for stitch. So that part of it can be difficult, but at the same time, what I was mentioning earlier is one of that sort of core principle of efficiency means that we actually save our clients a lot of money. So like on one project, we were able to save them like $2,000 per order on one element of the packaging. I don't have the values on my with me like exact, but it's something around there. And then, but we also invested into using a more eco material. But overall, they came out ahead. Like in terms of they by hiring us, they spent less money. So yeah, it's it's a sort of a tricky balance. But I think for us, it's about finding the right people who are willing to spend the effort, the extra effort to consider all of the different routes that they can take, and are okay with things taking a little bit longer, or maybe they cost a little bit more, and they want our help to sort of build that into their brand value, just like that example of that sort of the label inside of that tote, where we're talking about the production and sort of getting people to trust the brand more, and sort of become more like brand champions, or you just sort of obsessed with the brand because of their principles. So
great, thank you.
Yeah,
awesome. Thanks for your question, Victoria. We have a question from Hayden as well, so I'll unmute you, Hayden, and you are good to talk. Can you hear us, Hayden?
All right, you guys able to hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
Okay, sorry, my computer's doing weird things.
It's quite all right.
Yeah, so was there a specific moment that motivated you to take on the sustainable initiative, especially in this industry? And has that always been a core tenet of your design firm, or just your professional work in general?
Yeah, that's a great question. The studio was founded with that idea in mind. The whole genesis, I guess, of it came out of school. I was in grad school at the University of Arizona, and I think it was my second year. I took a course called Critical Issues in Design, and it was this sort of interdisciplinary course that had people from architecture, in dance, in photography, in illustration, design, web design and development, like all these different disciplines coming together and creating around this theme, and collaborating as well. And that course was the theme was how to use design as a force for good. And that course was sort of what opened my eyes to this, green graphic design as a thing, as a discipline. And I read this book called Green Graphic Design by Brian Doherty, and it sort of like merged two of my passions. Like at the time, I was like a budding environmentalist, and starting to care a lot more about that, and then really passionate about design. And that book sort of made me realize that those two can be like one thing. And I was already friends with my business partner Richard, and sort of reached out to him, asked him if he was interested, and he was like, yeah, 100% interested. And so we started with the two of us, and then we founded the business 10 years ago. So yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well done, guys.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks for your question, Hayden. Really appreciate that. So I don't see any more questions coming through. Jonny, did you have anything you wanted to end on specifically?
No, I think thanks everybody for coming along and for asking questions, and you know, feel free to reach out if you ever want to you know, talk more. If you have other questions, we got a great FAQ resource on our site, and yeah, thanks to you, Kevin.
Jonny, can't thank you enough for being here today. We're really honored. Obviously, I mean, it's hard to get people on a weekend, but even harder on a Sunday, because I'm sure you have a lot of things coming up this week. So all your insight and all of your advice, your presentation was amazing. Can't thank you enough. Everybody, if you want to watch this again, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, RYM Recycling. And everybody, thank you again for joining us. As we always like to say, respect each other and respect your mother. Bye. Have a good one.
Bye, guys.